So we're either gonna get a fish or we're gonna get a snag. There we go. There we go. All right, so here we are. We're up here in the Eastern Sierra off a little mountain runoff creek. I chose this spot today because out here at the Sierra, we have so many spots like this, from Bishop all the way up to Bridgeport, Mammoth and June. These creeks come out of the mountains, out of the Sierra, and there's so many of them. A lot of them, as you can see, are kind of hard to access. We have all types of trees and snags all over the place, so sometimes you just get onto Google Earth or on X, you can see little spots where it opens up and try to get into those areas. Today I'm going to be fishing a little 8/6 4-weight glass rod from Echo. This one's fun as long as the wind doesn't pick up too much today, and these fish aren't very big. We have rainbows, books, and browns. Some of the rainbows get to a decent size, but you know, most of them are sitting in that 6 to 8 inch range. So that should be a really fun rod for them out here today. We'll see how it goes. This is a fun river. Some of the gear that I like to bring out here, I always like to have a wading staff when I come out to these rivers. You want to be able to get in the water here. You don't want to be stuck on the side. As you can see, it's loaded with trees. Our only casting lanes are actually in the river itself. So wading staff will help you out a lot. I've also got wading boots on. I'm not wearing waders. I've got wading socks, I've got wading boots, and I've got pants on. Waders this time of year, they just get way too hot. You can't really move around. You're gonna tear them up and stuff. So we're not gonna be wearing them today. We're just gonna be wet wading. We got our wading staff, and we got a nice little glass rod here. We'll see how it ends up, and it's a beautiful day as long as that wind doesn't pick up. Okay. And what we're gonna be running today is a little bit of a yarn indicator here and 2 nips hanging on tags. I like using the yarn out here in these small rivers. These fish are often too little to eat that grasshopper, and a big plastic indicator is just going to splat. You're not going to get into the water that you want to as easily, and you can cast this. You can actually cast these. Yes, they kink your line, they can sink, but the new floatants these days really work with them. So I'm saying, you know, if you're coming out here, get used to yarn. Start using yarn. It's going to do a lot better for you than those plastic or corks or those hard, basically bobbers. They're not even indicators. This is an indicator. Okay, let's just get in position here. I'm just downstream of where this camera is at, and we're just working in nice and close to these rocks. What I can see in front of me are a bunch. Ooh, there's a little hit. See, and there we go. I set in the wrong direction, and I got snagged up in that tree above me. Woo! But we're clean. Good. All right, so what we have are just a bunch of boulders right in front of me. And these are all holding spots for trout. These boulders are, I don't know, anywhere from the size of a coffee table to a bowling ball. Oop. That was a snag, which is perfect for holding trout. And I'm going to be honest, I've never been to this part of the river today. I've never been here. And these spring runoff creeks, they all have fish in them. So as long as you can find an area where you can get in and make some casts, you have opportunities at fish. Now, is it a lot of fish? I don't know. That really depends on where you're fishing. Thought that was one. But I will tell you this, there are fish in that river, especially if you're anywhere from Mammoth, Bishop, June, anywhere in that area. All of our creeks running off the Sierra into the valley have fish in them. Oop. There's our first good snag. this part of the creek is kind of shaded. And what I find in these cold creeks, I bet this water is somewhere in that 50-degree range, maybe even colder. So when we have this shade, those fish aren't as active. That water's going to be colder, and you might have less fish because they're not as into the water type. There we go. All right, we're on. First fish of the day. Lady's excited. And what do we have here? Looks like a brown. Nice brown for this spot, actually. See if I can get over to you. Well, maybe not, but that's a beautiful brown. About 6 inches long, much bigger than I thought it would be. Great, great fish. You say hi? All right, well, why don't we move upriver? We found one in here. That tells me they're in here. Right in some very tricky water, right next to a snag. So we're either gonna get a fish or we're gonna get a snag. There we go. There we go. That's a good fish right here. Good run. Nice. That looks like a rainbow. Maybe our first, nope, it's another brown. Good. Good looking brown too. Oh, he spit out right at the last minute. That was a good brown. He was eating right off that log there, and I think there's another one. So let's see if we can get him. It's a tricky spot. We're either getting a fish or we're getting a snag. That's what we're committed to. Sometimes that's what you got to do. You have to know that. You don't just throw in thinking, oh, maybe it'll work out. You know you're going to get a snag. Or, well, whoever's in there with him disappeared after he got hooked. These are some spooky fish. They know what's up. Lady must have seen something. Well, that doesn't help with fishing too much. She hasn't been out in a while, I don't think. She's been cooped up. She's usually not that rogue. She'll stay by my side, but she just wants to get them on her own right now. That's why you bring a dog, so you can blame bad fishing on them. Ooh, there we go. There we go. Not quite as big as the rest, but still great. That's what we're here for. All right, another brown trout. Ate the midge. There we go. Great. What do you think, lady? Okay. I think that will do it for today. That was a pretty good one. We got a few hits on dries, mostly on nymphs, but just beautiful scenery out here. It's such a nice area to come out and fish. Some of these fish can be pretty big. Those browns actually were a little bit bigger than I was expecting today, and that's the surprises that the Sierra has. It has all these little gems just hanging out in the nooks and crannies, and it's up to you to come and explore them. It's endless. You don't need to go to those spots that everyone's going to. You can. They're great. I still fish them a lot, but there's something to be said about just these little creeks out in the mountains and just giving you that true escapism of fly fishing. Well, I had a good one. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.
Very cool, a little blue grouse right there.